This is the Big Stories Podcast, where we tell the amazing and inspiring stories from across the Big 12 Conference.
I'm your host, Cleon Wall, and I have some explaining to do. The Big Stories team was planning to release another amazing and inspiring tale this week, but we had a problem recording with our guests. Listen, I won't bore you with the details, but basically the interview didn't happen when we needed it to happen for this episode to be released today, so no new episode today. In the meantime, we wanted to share a portion of an episode from Season 1. Now, back in that first season of Big Stories, I used to gather 1 to 3 stories and release them as one episode. As you can tell, we've altered how we released episodes today. So we thought we would pick one of the stories from our trip to Morgantown, West Virginia in 2023. And since we are in the middle of March Madness, why not tell a basketball story? So here's our tale on former West Virginia basketball wizard Hot Rod Hundley. This is BYU Radio's Big Stories. It was controlled chaos inside of WVU Coliseum, the home of the Mountaineer basketball program. On this summer day, basketball campers were working on their skills to hopefully become the next Steph Curry, LeBron James, or Luka Doncic. I do wonder how many of the kids know about the legendary players from their state who have statues right outside of the arena. I would guess half of them would know a little about Jerry West. He had a distinguished career at West Virginia and in the NBA as a player and executive. I mean, the NBA's logo is based on him dribbling with his left hand. I'm not sure if the campers know much about the other guy. The graven image depicts a man shooting a hook shot with his right hand. The plaque below the statue states that number 33 was a self-made basketball player who played the game the way he wanted. The hookshot specialist is none other than Charleston, West Virginia native Hot Rod Hundley. And did he ever have an interesting basketball hero's journey? A lot of Utah Jazz fans remember Hot Rod's audio wizardry as the radio and TV play-by-play announcer for the team. But you should have seen him perform his magic on the court as a Mountaineer.
You know, he was an entertainer.
John Antonik is Director of Athletic Content at WVU and a historian.
I think he was far ahead of his time. The stories that, people tell about Hot Rod, the amazing thing is not that he did them, but they're true.
Hot Rod's journey to basketball immortality was filled with triumph and tragedy. His childhood was not easy.
I mean, the guy was passed around from family to family in Charleston, and he didn't know where his next meal was going to come from.
But once he found basketball, the hero with the cowhide globe emerged, and the tales of his conquests on the court sound comical and mythical, like the one where he had a chance to break the Southern Conference scoring record.
The game was in hand, and West Virginia was going to win the game, and he goes up to the foul line, and the first foul shot he takes a hook shot, misses it. And the second shot he takes, he shoots it behind his back, doesn't hit anything. Afterwards, they said, well, why did you do that, Rod? He said, well, gives me something to shoot for next year. That's the kind of guy he was. And people here really took to that.
He worked hard to be an entertainer. That was really gutsy of him to do those things in that day and age, to take those chances.
Dan Lohman is the director of the documentary film Hot Rod.
He's been known as one of the greatest athletes in West Virginia history. We'd always heard about behind-the-back passes during games. And that's really where I started to dig into it. I started looking at old films that we got converted over that had not been seen before. And all those things that we had heard about, when you don't really know if they happened, but until you see them on film, you go, yes, he did do those things. You're listening to somebody tell a story that is completely fiction. When they talk about, Hot Rod would run behind the basket, underneath the bleachers, go get a hot dog and come out on the other side while the game's going on and eat it, right? As the game's going on. I'm like, come on, no, he doesn't do that. Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He took that thing, as they talk about, to heights they've maybe never seen because he created this demand for the ticket. It was a show you had to be a part of. The JV games that he was a part of were the first games, right? They're sold out, and then people would leave when the varsity game started.
Hundley would joke, I built the field house, I packed in it, I built this Coliseum because of the people that we brought into the field house during my days there. And Jerry would always answer, yeah, well, I paid it off. He was a man of the people. And I think common, everyday people, coal miners that put in a day in the mines would come and watch Rod Hundley. He was just a effervescent personality. And I think people here at West Virginia really embraced that.
Hot Rod's hero's journey got a bit rocky once he left WVU.
In his NBA career, because he was so busy living a party life. He was very open about that, and so were other people that we talked to, that this guy, he didn't know a time of the day or night that he wasn't going to look to have a good time.
In Dan Lohman's film, Hot Rod's daughters didn't hold back when talking about their father.
He still always had that, positive attitude when he came home and happy to see us, but kids wasn't really his thing.
And he knew it. Like, he was not there for us. He didn't know what the hell to do with us.
I think later in life, especially when he kept looking back, he noticed what he had thrown away. So absolutely, it was a redemption story.
The hero's journey typically ends with the hero returning home.
Would you please welcome a Charleston, West Virginia native who played the game with incredible flair, scoring
West Virginia University brought Hot Rod home on January 23rd, 2010, to retire his number 33 jersey. He was flabbergasted that WVU would do this for him, according to John Antonik.
I think because the only other player that had their jersey retired at the time was Jerry West. And when you think about Jerry West, he's up here. And I think when you get past Jerry West, everybody else is kind of a personal preference, including Rod, because Jerry was such a great player. So he said the best thing that ever happened to me was coming to West Virginia, and where people knew him and were going to take care of him and whatnot.
All you guys, I love you. And all you Mountaineer fans, I love you. You're the greatest, the best in the world. No question about it. So with that, let's go Mountaineers.
After the pomp and ceremony were done, a WVU employee gave Hot Rod a basketball and told him to shoot it.
That was the showman in it. Now, the thing about Rod, he had the ball, and I would say he was probably about maybe 15 or 20 feet from the rim. And knowing him, he inched in and got closer to where he knew he could make the shot. And, of course, it was one of those where the ball didn't go directly in. It hit the basket, hit the rim, hit off the backboard, and goes. But that was perfect for Rod because, Rod was that cat that you set upside down and dropped and always landed on all fours. That was Rod Hundley. He was Peter Pan. I mean, his whole life was like that. And for him to make that shot the way he did, that's a perfect analogy of his life.
There's a lot of routine moments, but that one sticks out. It'll probably go down as one of the greatest moments in the history of that building. And what person of that age would ever in a suit, again, buttoned up suit, he didn't even unbutton it, he just, of course he's going to make the shot.
Hot Rod's quest was not quite complete. He would dazzle a group of fans at a smaller venue the same weekend. His daughters convinced him to go to one of his old college haunts, Gene's Place. Al Bonner is the current owner.
I mean, it was a good crowd anyway on a Friday before a big basketball game the next day when they were retiring his number. And so he got out of the car here and he walked in and the place just erupted. I mean, it's just like, nothing I'd never heard before in there, other than, scored a touchdown or something on a big game or something like that. And the place just erupted and everybody's cheering. And his three daughters are sitting at the end of the bar down at the far end and they're just watching it. He spent 3 hours behind my bar, just pouring beer, taking pictures, for people, and people were getting a beer from him, and then they were coming up carrying their glass, said, I want to buy this glass, and wanting a bag, and they wanted to have the beer glass that Hot Rod poured them a beer in. And there was a guy here named Bill Kennel that saw him play when he played down at the field house. Bill was right there, and he started talking to him, and just, but his daughters are just watching the whole thing happen, and it's just like, what is happening here, and because they certainly didn't expect, I don't think, and from what they said, they had no idea what Hot Rod meant to people and to this town until they saw this stuff. I've been here 38 years, and it was the greatest day I ever had there.
And these people told me he brought this town together in a way that nobody else had ever done. And they said, "Do you understand what your father meant to this town?" And I said, I'm starting to get it. We had tears in our eyes. And then they said to me, "Your father's a hero."
Hot Rod died in March of 2015 at the age of 80. In February of 2016, West Virginia made sure his legacy would live on, dedicating a statue in honor of the mighty Mountaineer basketball player. On that day, documentary filmmaker Dan Lohman was focused on Hot Rod's daughters.
To watch them was very emotional. And I think that also made them feel like, how can you not be on top of the world at that point to see a statue of your dad unveiled? But for other folks, you take that and then you take tying it together with the documentary. A lot of folks came up and just said, "Thank you. Thank you for telling the story." And other folks would talk and say about their parents or their grandparents, "Yeah, you were telling the truth. All that stuff did happen." Whether we want to admit it or not, every family has its flaws. So I think that people gravitate towards something like that because they want to feel a real story and they want to relate to it.
Hot Rod's hero's journey is not one of perfection, but it ends perfectly. And for Dan, it's summed up in Hundley's likeness outside WVU Coliseum, with Hot Rod shooting that hook shot.
There were publicity photos made of him in that stance, but that's who he was. It was kind of like, in a way, I'm going to go for it. It was that hook shot mentality of, let's see what happens.
Thanks again for listening to our episode on Hot Rod Hundley. A quick heads up, we will have our regularly scheduled episode on Tuesday, but we won't have an episode coming up next Thursday as we plan that as a day off. We've still got plenty of inspiring tales to tell from around the Big 12, so make sure you stay tuned and join us again in April. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio.